Hello. So this video is going to be about the Disney's version of Robin Hood, the animated one. I think there's a possibility they may have done some of like little mini Robin Hood stuff in like regards to like many of the like little silly symphonies every now and then, but this is the main one that I'll be talking about today is of course the Robin Hood one with all of the animals. One of my more favorite versions of Robin Hood. Not that I'm not impartial to a degree to, Robin Hood Men in Tights, which is also a very fun movie to watch. Um, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about this. It came out in 1973. Joining me for my props today, since I don't have a Robin Hood Disney version of the book, I have this other book here that's a Robin Hood book, and I brought out the only two fox stuffed animal plushies that I have, Fennekin and my Alolan Vulpix. I also have this giant freaking arrow that I got my mom for a birthday gift or Christmas gift a few years ago that seems to fit well. So that's what we're doing with that. I also have a Robin Hood shirt. It says, "Keep your chin up. Someday there'll be happiness again," which is just, one of my favorite Robin Hood quotes, I would say, from the Disney movie. It is kind of a tongue-in-cheek version of how they do the Robin Hood story. I mean, you still got the main characters. You got Robin, of course, Robin Hood. You got Little John, who's, of course, a bear. Robin Hood's a fox. You have, of course, Maid Marian, who is another fox. You have Prince John or King John, the phony king of England, who is a lion, very scrawny little lion. His advisor, assistant type thing, Sir Hiss, who is a snake. You have the Sheriff of Nottingham, who is a fox. No, he's not a fox. He's a wolf. He's a wolf. Him and a lot of his cronies are all wolves. You have Maid Marian's lady-in-waiting, Lady Cluck, who is, of course, a chicken, who's cute. You have Friar Tuck, who is a badger. And you have, lots of other menagerie of animals play other characters. There's like a family of rabbits. There's a turtle. There's, a dog that's the blacksmith. There, lots of other variations of different, characters in the story that they developed, of course. And then, of course, at the end, you get to see King Richard returning from the phony crusades. We'll get to that. Because kids don't need to know what a crusade is, but it's still part of the Robin Hood story, of course. So, of course, the movie is, the natural telling of Robin Hood. It's being told by a minstrel who is a chicken, well, a rooster. Alan a Dale is what he's called. It's the concept of, it's, the bard's tale of Robin Hood, which is a cute way of, doing the movie, I would say. There's gags throughout the movie, not a lot of huge over-the-top gags. It's more, Disney movies, all Disney movies have, sight gags or something like that going on in them somewhere in the background or somewhere very clear on stage, or, clear up front. We'll see, though. Different, Robin Hood, to a degree, has those, doesn't have them. It differs depending on the scene, of course, and even the more serious scenes still end up having some funny moments in them. Usually to break the tension. There's music throughout the movie. Not too many way over the top songs because there's not really that many huge ones. There's, the party song in the middle after, Robin kind of sticks it to, King John, Prince John. There's, that all the people from Nottingham and everything are singing about, funny Prince John and all that. And, there's some other little songs throughout the movie. Some of them are sung by Alan a Dale since he's a bard. That makes sense. But of course we have, Robin Hood and Little John, and they're of course being chased by the sheriff and all of his men. And we get, them going through the forest and talking about, the prince is gonna, the sheriff of Nottingham is eventually gonna may eventually catch you, Robin. You got to be careful there. And he gets an arrow through his hat. So you get the funny bits with that. If they're eluding the sheriff and his posse. And then of course we're introduced to Prince John, who is currently the kind of reigning king because his brother, King Richard, who is the rightful king of England, is off at the Crusades. They kind of play this down in the actual mythos of Robin Hood. The Crusades were going on in, the Holy Land in the Middle East at that time, and the true king, King Richard, had gone off to fight in the Crusades, and then under King John or Prince John's, tyrannical rule of, overtaxing all of the civilians and everything to get, as much money as he could for himself. That's where the legend of Robin Hood came of, people who would, steal from the rich to give to the poor. That's kind of the basic story of Robin Hood is, of course, that's just where that came from. Various, versions of Robin Hood have done different, versions of that. This one just does it with, animals. They do make a comment in it, and mostly I would say to, dial down some stuff. They make the comment of Sir Hiss said that, it's either King Rich or Prince John or Hiss says, oh, I hypnotized your brother into going off to, deal with that phony crusade or whatever to get Prince John, of course, in charge. And Prince John has this bad habit of sucking on his thumb whenever he gets, whenever he doesn't get what he wants, kind of throws a tantrum and sucks on his thumb or, breaks a mirror over Hiss or whatever the heck it is that he decides to do to punish Hiss, which you would think would just make Hiss want to leave, but, and this Hiss has kind of a similar power to what Ka does. In Jungle Book, he has the ability to hypnotize. They are not the same type of snake, though. Ka is, of course, a python or boa, and Hiss is just more like a common. I wouldn't say that he's like a common garter snake, but he's not, the same type of snake as Ka. Because he's not, you look at the comparisons, he's not nearly as long as Ka. Ka is much more coily and much longer and everything, and Hiss is much shorter, much smaller. Mostly because that animal is not native to England. Then again, they have, rhinos and lions and, elephants and hippos and a bunch of other stuff that's definitely not native to England, but they're there. So, that's just the way that it is. Some Animal Kingdom logic, others not so much. It's the concept of, let's put clothes on animals and have them act like people, which of course later on very much translated into how they made Zootopia work and other variations of that. If Robin Hood hadn't worked, there probably wouldn't have been a Zootopia, so many, decades later. And I like Zootopia. We'll get to Zootopia down the line, but very much if Robin Hood hadn't worked, then, Nick and Zootopia wouldn't have worked, or that concept of, all the animals living together wouldn't have worked. But we get, of course, Robin Hood and Little John disguise themselves as fortune telling, and they do, they're going to trick Prince John into, letting them, steal jewels and steal his gold and everything. Robin acts as a distraction. Of course, they're, dressed up here. Robin, tricks him, pretends like, oh, I'm going to do fortune telling, and has this orb, this glowing orb that has fireflies in it that they use. And, and swindles Prince John and everything, keeps him, distracted while, Little John goes around and, steals the solid gold hubcaps off of the carriage and, steals a bunch of money out of the treasure chest and a whole bunch of other stuff that happens that he steals. And then, of course, Prince John figures out, it's Robin Hood, I've been robbed and everything. So they go, they get chased and everything, and, Robin and Little John escape. And, that's a little bit more when we're introduced to the sheriff. We cut to Nottingham, because there's, of course, the Sherwood Forest, and then, of course, there's the town of Nottingham. In Nottingham is, of course, where the majority of the cast live. A lot of the peasants live and such. There's, Friar Tuck, who is Robin Hood's main contact, who, will get, money from Robin Hood, and then he'll take it into town and give it to the, rest of the townsfolk. Otto, who is the blacksmith, who's this dog that kind of has a bum leg. There's, this family, there's lots of other people who are, being punished. There's like people that are in the stockades because they can't pay their taxes. And of course, they're being punished because Prince John has raised the taxes so high that they can't, afford to pay the taxes and feed themselves and keep their home. So that's kind of where this comes from. Overtaxing, which has implications, but in this case, it's very much way too much overtaxing. But we're going to leave that alone. So we have that. We're introduced to this family of rabbits who it's, this little rabbit, Skippy, I think he was 7, it's his birthday. And, the family gets him like a whole fur thing. And then, Sheriff of Nottingham takes it, shows up and takes the coin. And, and then Robin Hood comes in and he's dressed as this, old blind beggar type thing, with a cup and a stick and, hood over himself and everything. Because, Robin Hood's a master of disguise. And he, goes, he makes his way in and, the sheriff just thinks he's a blind beggar and leaves him alone. And after he takes the money that's in the cup. And then, Robin Hood kind of, the little baby rabbit, he's not a baby rabbit, he's 7 or whatever, is, sad because, of course, the one, his birthday gift was taken. And so, Robin Hood, cheers him up. He gives him a bow and arrow, and Robin Hood even gives him his own hat, which is just, it's just cute. It's, yes, let's give the rabbit a bow and arrow that are, like, bigger than him. But, that works. It's cute. And it makes the little kid happy. So that's the important thing. And, Robin gives some money to the widow. It's the widow rabbit and, like, all of her little bunnies and everything. Then we kind of cut to where we get a little more introduced, where we get the introduction of Maid Marian. We have the rabbit, whose name is Skippy, and I think it's his 2 sisters and then their friend who's a turtle. I do not remember what the name of the 2 bunnies are or the turtle. It's not listed here in my notes, but I apologize for that. It's not super important, but like Skippy's trying to use his bow and arrow and he shoots the arrow and it lands in the courtyard of the castle where, of course, Prince John lives. And that's, of course, where Maid Marian lives as well. Which it's stated that Marian is the niece of the king, so niece of, King Richard, therefore Prince John would also be her uncle because he's not her father. But it's like, okay, who married, did the fox marry into the lion family? What happened here? How did that happen? Type thing. Animal Kingdom. Rules. Yeah, rules. Weird rules is what they are. But so they sneak into the courtyard where Maid Marian and her lady-in-waiting, Lady Cluck, her attendant, are playing tennis, and they end up running into the they end up running into Maid Marian and Lady Cluck, and they just end up Maid Marian, of course, very nice and gentle and everything, and very good with the kids. And Lady Cluck is just, kind of funny. And, her and Little John are a little bit there for, funny. And Lady Cluck just gets some really great things she gets to do as the lady in waiting. And, Maid Marian and Lady Cluck kind of play with the kids. And, like, they explain, well, I knew Robin Hood and, we were in love a long time ago, and then I went off to England, and he probably doesn't even remember me anymore. And, there's folklore legends, even among the people of the community of, Robin Hood and Maid Marian are going to end up together, that they love each other very, very much, and that, someday they'll, end up married and happy and everything. Which, that's the way that it goes. And if you read most of the Robin Hood stories, that's usually how it tends to go, is the 2 of them end up getting together. But we end up getting a lot of, Robin Hood, she plays with the kids a little bit. She pretend, Lady Cluck pretends to be Prince John, and Skippy pretends to fight her and then rescue Maid Marian. And then of course she gives him a, she like, snuggles him and gives him a kiss, which is just so cute. Like, and he's just like, oh. And of course, that just makes the other two bunnies and the turtle laugh. And then we cut again to, watching Maid Marian, and, Robin, of course, has, his wanted posters all over the place, and Maid Marian has one in her room. And, we get a lot of, Maid Marian just kind of fawning over the poster and being very, very the love sick, or not love sick, but, puppy love, very much missing. Well, I guess love sick would apply, yes, where she very much misses Robin, and she wants to see him again and everything, and reiterating the whole thing of, I've been gone for so long. She calls her lady in waiting Clucky. I've been waiting for so long that I've been gone, that he's probably forgotten all about me. And then of course we have her dreamily looking out the window. Cut to Robin dreamily stirring soup while Little John does laundry in the back. Which they must, it's like, logic predicts that, they live in the forest, therefore they have to do their laundry and everything by very, small means, as, probably washing it in the river and everything. And they got to keep their costumes clean for when they do their acts. They try to trick the royalty or the nobility or whatever out of their money. They have to have their costumes all clean and everything. Although, admittedly, given the fact that not all of the royalty is bad, because they do very much like King Richard, he's just gone right now, so unfortunately Prince John is in charge. And of course the sheriff gets, of course, his, probably his cut of everything. So of course he's perfectly fine with, you know, punishing the townsfolk or whatever in the area. And it's, so, and Maid Marian, the people seem to very much care for and respect Maid Marian. So it's not all the royalty is bad. It's just Prince John at the moment happens to be the bad apple that's in charge. And so we get, we watch, Little John's in the background doing laundry, and, Robin's kind of daydreaming, and we get the funny bits of, Robin almost burns the food, and Little John scolds him. And Robin's like, Maid Marian's probably forgotten all about me. So we're getting it from both sides. Maid Marian thinks Robin's forgotten all about her because he hasn't come. And of course, Robin Hood thinks that, Maid Marian, she's been gone for so long, she's probably forgotten all about me and probably found somebody else or whatever. And, so we get a lot of, that type of thing of, oh, well, just go to the frickin' castle and tell her how you feel. It's a little easier for you to go to the castle, I would say, than her to try to sneak out of the castle at this point in time. But, that's how it works. And we get a lot of Robin Hood and Little John talking, and then, of course, Friar Tuck shows up. And he basically says, well, then why don't you go and tell her how you feel? Listen to the badger. They're Hufflepuffs, so am I. I know that has no bearing on this, but whatever. Well, we get a snake in the movie, so that's Slytherin. We get a badger, who's the, Hufflepuff representation. We see two different lions. One who is a noble lion in regards to, very noble lion in regards to King Richard, and the other one who is a very skeezy, slummy lion, who is Prince John. We don't have any ravens. I don't have any ravens in this, so we can't get all of the Harry Potter references. But I mean, like, we have like the vultures that like work for the sheriff, but there's not really any other birds that are wandering around Nottingham or Sherwood Forest or whatever that are that are ravens. I mean, there's a lot of ravens in Disney movies, because there's a raven in Snow White that watches the Wicked Queen take her change herself into the hag and then make the poison apple, and of course Maleficent has a raven there. But there's not a raven in this, or else we would say, well, that's where we got all four houses represented. We don't. We got three of them. Does that make Prince John Wormtail? um, although I would kind of put Hiss a little bit closer to the spectrum in the Slytherin spectrum, put him probably closer to Lucius Malfoy, as opposed to better Slytherins. As opposed to the Slytherins that are, yeah, they're Slytherins, but that doesn't make them bad. Moving on. Sorry, sidetracked by Harry Potter. Welcome to my brain. So we get, Friar Tuck has shown up and he's telling, Robin Hood and Little John that, oh, there's going to be this archery contest, and the prize, first prize, is going to be a golden arrow and a kiss from Maid Marian. And of course, Little John's like, well, Robin could win that with his eyes closed. And Robin's like, of course I could. So he's, all ready and everything. Where it's like, it's a trap, you idiot. So of course it's a trap, because everybody knows that Robin Hood is the best archer in town, the best archer in the area. And that, of course, is, lure him out. And so, we get the next day, this big, festival type thing for the archery contest, and lots of participants and everything, including the Sheriff of Nottingham. And of course, we have Robin there, of course, disguised as a stork, and we have Little John disguised as kind of this, pompous. Well, I wouldn't say he's pompous. He's not pretending to be pompous, but he's pretending to be a nobleman and everything to get close to Prince John, who is, of course, in a very bad mood because, Robin Hood and Little John stole a bunch of his gold. It's like, dude, it's not your gold. And we get a lot of, everybody's there and, watching and ready for Robin Hood to show up, and they have this whole plan set. Richard, Prince John and the sheriff got this plan to, catch Robin Hood. And Robin Hood is disguised as a stork, and he, at one point he comes and he gives a flower to Maid Marian, gives her a signal of some kind. Oh, this. I'm like, okay, Robin Hood, you may not have wanted to do that because she's sitting right next to frickin' Prince John. I'm pretty sure he's not stupid enough. He's stupid, but he's not that stupid that he's not going to notice. Very blatantly, one of the, people who comes up and is part of the tournament pretending, giving Maid Marian, this flower or whatever. I was like, dude, just, maybe you shouldn't have done that. Maybe that wouldn't have clued them in so quickly. I don't know. But we get, Little John. What is it? He calls himself like something Duke of Chutney or whatever. Yeah, Duke of Chutney. I don't know. Reginald Duke of Chutley, I think, is what he has for his like disguise name. And Little John or Robin Hood is being a stork. And so we get Little John kind of gets next to Prince John, and he kind of Hiss gets dismissed because he's of course Prince or Little John is of course very good at doing complimenting and buttering up and everything to Prince John to get close in case something needs to be done. Mostly just to be right next to Prince John in case something happens and they need to, I'm assuming, not kill Prince John, because they don't want to kill him. They want King Richard to come back, and then they want Prince John to be punished, so they don't want Prince John dead. But just, I guess hold him hostage, I guess would be the way of putting it. And of course, Hiss slithers off. Prince John, or Little John, because there's Prince John and there's Little John. Little John is like, go away. What is it he calls him? He's like, Long One is what he calls him, and Creepy or whatever else that he calls Hiss, and Hiss slithers off, and he's like, okay, and he like ends up in like this balloon around his head, and he like inflates it and then like propels himself around, which is not the way physics works, because eventually he'd suffocate from being in the balloon, because he wouldn't have any more air to breathe than what was in the balloon, and it would keep becoming more and more carbon dioxide, but logic. And Friar Tuck and Elena Dale are like watching where, they kind of follow the snake or whatever, and they try to catch him, and like he kind of gets to see that, oh, Robin Hood's the stork, and so he goes to tell him, and then they, pop the balloon, and then they put him into this, barrel of ale. So the snake gets drunk. the snake gets drunk. And, Robin, of course, wins the shooting contest, even though the, Sheriff of Nottingham tries to cheat. Robin, of course, wins. And, and then he's, revealed to the town as Robin Hood by, Prince John, ripping off the costume and everything. And, so then Robin's captured. He's got, this shackle around his neck and ropes all the way around him and everything. And they're getting ready to, execute him. And Maid Marian tries to, plead for his life, of course, because she loves him. And, and Robin admits that he loves her too, because Prince John is, well, do you love this woman as well? Yes, of course I do, type thing. And then we have Little John comes up behind Prince John behind the stage and has a knife to Prince John's back and is like, tell him to let Robin Hood go and everything. So he's just doing that. And then of course we go this whole big fight that happens. And it's just a fun fight scene because we get Lady Cluck pretending to be a football player at one point, charging through all of these, rhinos and elephants, and there's all this destruction, and Robin Hood is flirting with Maid Marian during the time of all of this, and we'll have a bunch of kids, and we'll get married, and we'll go to London for, London or France or wherever, or Normandy or whatever for our our honeymoon, and and then we'll have 7 kids, and Marian's just oh, yay! At one point she throws a pie. I wouldn't say that they make Maid Marian be the helpless damsel in distress. Admittedly, this was a little bit. I mean, the first main princess that you would be able to say was very much not a damsel in distress to a degree. I mean, a lot of people say Belle wasn't really a damsel in distress, but I would say at times, but same thing with Ariel. Maid Marian a little bit of able to, handle herself because she, helps a little bit. And she doesn't seem to be fazed by all the fighting going on around her in regards to, watching Robin, sword fight against the, the rhinos and the elephants or whatever. And of course, we get, a bunch of destruction happens and then everybody, runs into the forest and all the townsfolk and Robin and Maid Marian and Little John and Lady Cluck all run into the forest and they escape. And Prince John is left, wallowing, and they find Hiss in the barrel and they pull him out. And he's like, "Sir, you'll never guess. Robin Hood is the stork." "Oh, really?" And he grabs Hiss and ties him up in a knot around a pole. And he's like, "See if you can slither out of that one." Now that I think about it, I could have brought out my snake again, but I figured I'd go with these. It's the snake could have worked. Nah, we'll go with these. So we get a lot of, that, and then we get the whole, one of my favorite sequences in the movie. And yes, I'm a romantic, so of course lots of my favorite sequences in a lot of the Disney movies are, of course, where we have the love song going, and we get to watch as, the guy and the girl fall in love, the princess, the prince and the soon-to-be princess or whatever falling in love, or whatever. That might be another countdown I do at some point where I do my favorite Disney love songs, but that'll be a ways down the line. But we get Robin Hood and Maid Marian wandering through the Sherwood Forest, and we get to watch them fall in love again, and and we get this beautiful image of them reflected in the lake, and him giving her a flower ring and everything, and that's just so cute. And then, of course, we get all the townsfolk showing up, and they have this giant, festival type thing, in the glen and everything where Robin and Little John live. And, they're all making fun of King Richard, and, they have the puppets and everything. And they're all dancing about and everything. And, Maid Marian dancing with some of the other characters and everything. And, Robin Hood playing along, and Prince, and Little John and Friar Tuck and everything are all just, playing along and having fun. And it's just a great little festival era, and festival air, and all, everybody's dancing and such. And that's just, fun to watch. And we get fun songs, the Phony King of England is what the song is called. And they, then the next day everybody goes back into town, and that's when Prince John decides that, okay, tax everyone, because he hears part of the song that they were singing, because the sheriff is kind of singing it, and then he starts singing it, and then Prince John hears it, and he doesn't like them calling him the phony king of England, of course. Which, I kind of don't blame him in that case, but he is a grade a-hole. And, so he's like, going to tax everybody so badly that, and apparently he just like keeps all the money in the castle with him because we see all these, we cut back to him or something. He's got like all these piles of money around him and everything. And then, of course, everybody ends up in, tax debtors prison. They can't afford their houses anymore. They can't, so they're trapped in the prison. And, we get, that every town has its ups and downs, that Ellen Adele sings. That they got to play Alan Adele. I do not remember what his name is, but I think that they did a great job on casting him in regards to having him sing the songs. Beyond the little bits of like everybody singing the phony King of England. And we get a lot of, we get, see all these different, the rabbit family is there. Otto is there with still his bum leg, and all the animals are still helping each other. There's like this rabbit that looks like it's eating a piece of cheese. And then there's like these little mice that are, tied to this other, ball and chain. And, crumb falls from the rabbit's cheese. And, the crumb falls from the rabbit's cheese. And the mouse comes over and he tries to get it, but it's too far. And the rabbit, kindness is small. And the rabbit picks up the little crumb and he gives it to the mouse. And the mouse is just like just says, look, thank you. And then he like goes over and he shares it with the other mice that are there. So it's just, it can be very much showed that even those who don't have very much will still sometimes give what they can. And I think that that's a good little, glimpse on humanity. Sometimes you can see humanity more in animals than you can in humans in some cases. And in some cases, that's a very adept way of showing it, is that. And it's just, unfortunately, that's what they show. So they're all still kind of taking care of each other. And then, of course, we have, we cut over to Friar Tuck and these two little mice that live in the church with him. And, they're, playing the organ and the piano, trying to give, some hope to, the people who are in the prison and everything. And they're, the mice give their one last farthing to, help. And then, of course, the sheriff shows up and he takes the last farthing out of the poor box. And that, of course, just, that sets Friar Tuck off, which I don't blame him. That would have set me off too if I was in that same situation. And Friar Tuck starts chasing him out and like whacking him with like whatever stick or board or whatever it is that he has. He starts whacking the sheriff with that, and then they get, it was a trick. They pin, they pin Friar Tuck with a shackle around his neck, so he's now caught. And Hiss tells, Prince John that was, we caught Friar Tuck and everything. And, Prince John says, I don't want Friar Tuck, I want Robin Hood. And, he is very angry, very, very angry about this. And he's like, wait a second, you said that you have Friar Tuck? Yes, sir. We're going to hang Friar Tuck. So it's like, okay. And, you want to lure out Robin Hood. I mean, it's not the worst plan there is. Everybody else is already in the debtor's prison except for the sheriff and his men and the two vultures. Everybody else in Nottingham is, currently not around. And Robin Hood, the sheriff and the two buzzards that he has, Trigger and Nutsy. Trigger has a crossbow that keeps misfiring, and then Nutsy is just not all there. It's a good way of putting it. And we get, they're getting ready, they got the noose and the hangman, the hanging station all set and ready. And Robin comes in his beggar disguise and kind of finds out what's going on. It's like, well, we're gonna hang Friar Tuck, and he's like, oh boy, that's not good. And then, like, he leaves. He keeps up his persona. And Trigger, actually, out of the three of them, I would actually say Trigger is probably the smartest in regards to the fact that he's like, well, that guy, that old beggar or whatever. And Robin, of course, keeps complimenting, the sheriff to, prevent the sheriff from, thinking that, oh, this is Robin Hood. This is a guy that needs to be taken care of. It's not, blah, 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 blah. And we get a lot of, Robin explained, Robin and Robin and Little John said, okay, there's going to be a jailbreak tonight because we have to save Friar Tuck and we have to save everybody else that's in that prison. And it's not exactly explained where Maid Marian is at this point. We don't know if she stayed, her and Lady Cluck stayed in the forest with Robin Hood and Little John, or if Maid Marian and Lady Cluck went back to the castle at some point. You would think that Maid Marian and Lady Cluck, probably the safer place for them, honestly, would be in Sherwood Forest, because if they go back to the castle, then Prince John is just going to use them as hostages because he knows how much Maid Marian now means. Now he knows specifically how much Maid Marian means to Robin Hood. So they never explain exactly where Maid Marian and Lady Cluck are, if they're in the forest with, Robin Hood and Little John, or if they went back to the castle, but, Robin Hood and Little John plan the jailbreak, and, Robin Hood, disguises himself as one of the buzzards and, gets, tricks the sheriff into falling asleep and stealing the keys, and then Little John sneaks into the, tower prison area and gets all of the everybody unhooked and unlocked and everything, and sends Robin then sneaks into the castle, and they set up this pulley system between the tower and between Prince John's room where all the money is, and then they send all the money down, and then Prince John or Little John and all of the different townsfolk and Friar Tuck and Alan-a-Dale, the rooster, all have their bags of money that they're carrying because rightfully it should be returned to them. And Robin Hood gets every little bag and everything, and Hiss wakes up and sees that everything, sees all the money's leaving and sees Robin Hood fleeing, and he, chaos ensues, and the sheriff, the castle gets set on fire because of the sheriff and Prince John, and gets kind of destroyed, and we get a whole bunch of other, stuff, and it looks like at one point that Robin Hood's dead because, it looks like he was underwater for way too long, and, so we get, the sad moment between, Little John and the Skippy, the little rabbit, and, so we think that, oh, Robin's dead, and, we do get a moment during when everything's ensuing and all the prisoners are escaping, the youngest little bunny, it kind of gets separated a little bit, so Robin Hood runs back and gets her, and that's when the gate closes, and then Robin Hood sends a little baby, or, well, she's not a little baby, she's more probably 4-ish, maybe, I don't know, 4-ish range, and gives her to Little John, who takes her and runs, and so it's Robin will sacrifice himself in order to do that. I'm watching WandaVision right now, and that kind of reminds me of a little bit of, what happens to Vision in the Halloween episode, where it very much proves that he is why he was worthy of wielding the hammer, as in he cares more about the people in the town being safe than himself. So, you get a little bit more of that. That doesn't exactly, that's not really spoilers for WandaVision, but it's a little bit of, you see where that came from, since he is worthy of wielding, Mjolnir. You see why. Robin Hood, I wouldn't necessarily say Robin Hood would be worthy of wielding Thor's hammer, but, give him a chance, see what happens. I don't know if that would work or not, but moving on. But, so they, and Robin ends up being, of course, he's okay, and, the castle burns and everything. But then, we cut to a little bit later, and, King Richard has returned, and his brother and Sir Hiss and the sheriff are under arrest. and they're, in like this rock quarry or whatever, where they're having to the royal rock quarry or whatever it is, where they have to, break stones all day, which I never understood what that did. I never understood how that was like, okay, I get that it's a punishment because it makes them do, physical labor or whatever, but I don't understand how that is beneficial to other people. I mean, I guess it breaks up stones that can be used for roads, but unless you're breaking them into like certain shapes, it's not really going to be good for either building houses or walls or whatever. So, it's, I'm not sure on that one, but whatever. They're all trapped. They're all, in prison. And it's, we get the wedding of, Robin Hood and Maid Marian, and and it's not one of the over the top things. And King Richard makes a concept of, now I have an outlaw for an in-law, former outlaw for an in-law and everything. And they all, so Robin and Maid Marian ride off in the carriage that's being, drawn by Little John, and the little rabbit comes with them. And so we get like that bit of them getting sent off. That's basically kind of where that part of it ends. There's no sequel to Robin Hood, or at least there's no sequel to this Robin Hood. Other Robin Hood movies, of course, have had sequels, but this one doesn't, unfortunately. I don't know exactly what Disney would have done for a sequel for it. There's another crusade, and Prince John is back in power, but given the fact of everything, you would think that King Richard, if he had to go and deal with something else, that he would have now put like Robin Hood and Maid Marian in charge of that type of stuff instead of Prince John, since Prince John's in jail. But they didn't do any sequels to it. As I said, I do like the music in the movie. In regards to when they wanted to start doing Robin Hood, or when the idea of Robin Hood had been around at the studio, it had been around for quite a while. Even like way back during like the Snow White days and everything, the Robin Hood idea had been around. Which, given the fact of, the story of Robin Hood had been told a few different times in like silent films and like little serialized things that would run before movies or in between movies, it made sense that would have been something at least Walt Disney would have been at least looking into. There's a lot of other, movies that deal with, like folklore and stuff like that they've done. I mean, Peter Pan and, Alice in Wonderland are a little bit of that. Robin Hood doesn't really have a whole lot of magic involved in it. Mostly just because it's not a story that's based around magic. It's a story that's based around, it's still the good triumphing over evil type thing, which is very much a theme that tended to be in the Disney movies, but that was just more what happened with Robin Hood. There was a lot of other ones where they wanted to have different ideas for Robin Hood, and then eventually, of course, coalescing in this one. So it's a lot of the same people that worked on that, I think it was still the same style of, I think they were still using the Xerox machines at this point, or maybe had updated to something a little bit better, because and you kind of see this running through Robin Hood and Aristocats, and I think a little bit in Jungle Book, where you can see more of the lines that they use to draw the characters. It was less clean lines, which I don't mind. I kind of find that charming. Makes it still look more like a picture that's been brought to life. Not that I don't love the designs and the drawing styles and the art styles that are in, Sleeping Beauty or Cinderella, but there's different charm to different types, and I like that. And that's where that comes from. One of the things that they have when it comes to that you notice and that you might notice with Robin Hood is that they reuse a lot of footage, and that doesn't mean like they have we're just going to use a scene back, but we're just going to play it in reverse. No, what I mean by they reused footage is, of course, like I've stated in previous videos, where they would do live action reference footage, and then they would use that as a way of referencing how the characters would move or dance or fight. And they do this in Robin Hood. In the sequence when it's mostly, I believe, in the sequence with the big party in the forest, where the phony King of England sketch, where or the phony King of England scene, where they have Little John is like dancing and everything, and that's the same dance that, or a very similar dance to what Baloo does in Jungle Book, which of course they're both voiced by Phil Harris. But it's just like a very similar dance, and like him and Lady Cluck do a very similar dance to what he and King Louie do in to what Baloo and King Louie do in Jungle Book. And then of course there's when Maid Marian is like dancing with like Otto and some of the other townsfolk. That's similar. That's the same kind of reference footage that they use for Snow White dancing with the dwarves. And then of course you have where you have like Robin Hood and Maid Marian kind of dancing at one point. A little more fun dancing is very similar to the dance that they had for um, O'Malley and Duchess in Aristocats. So it's not like like in the Everybody Wants to Be a Cat sequence where they're dancing. So it's not, it's not like they just like, oh, well, we'll just take this scene and put it here. It's just like a reference footage, and they have the reference footage, so I don't see a problem with that. I mean, it's part of Disney history, so sure, make a call back to it. I have no problem with it. I know some people didn't necessarily like it, but I enjoy it. It's fine by me. Um, there's not too much there. Um, yeah, the same type of ability Kaw has, as I said, is Hiss has is what Kaw has. Um, Not too much. He's a different type of snake. There's still the elephants and everything that are from, they use some of those same designs or a little bit of references from Jungle Book in that, since they still had some like stuff written from Jungle Book that they use for references for that. Um, short bits is fine. I mean, it's not like they completely, they didn't recopy the story or anything like that. So little bits of that. In regards to Robin Hood and other media, we have House of Mouse. Robin Hood makes a few different appearances in House of Mouse every now and then. We have one here where he's got like a bag of money. That he probably stole from someone. I don't know. That Prince John and the sheriff have shown up a few times as well. And then of course we have this other image which I just think is cute. Is like Pocahontas and Robin Hood. Looks like there's like a whispering thing going on. It's like I think it's like a game of telephone or something like that. Um, it's a rumor type thing that gets sent around. Um, so we get different things like that. There's not, I don't remember if Maid Marian ever pops up in House of Mouse, but I know Robin Hood does a few different times, just like in like head counts or stuff like that they do every now and then. So there's not too much there. Robin Hood unfortunately does not appear in Kingdom Hearts. If he did, I would think that would be a fun way of doing it. I mean, I wouldn't have minded if they did like a sheriff of or a Sherwood Forest world, or Nottingham world or something like that in Kingdom Hearts, where eventually you end up having to fight like one of the Heartless bosses. It's like, oh, the sheriff ends up turning into a Heartless, or Prince John turns into a Heartless and you have to fight them. um you have to help Robin Hood and Little John, and like Robin Hood joins your party at some point, or whatever the case may be. Sora, Donald, and Goofy. Well, Donald and Goofy are already animals, but like Sora gets turned into something. Kind of like when you go into the Monsters Inc. world, which will be later on. I'll talk about Monsters Inc. when I get to the Pixar movies. But at one point in the Monsters Inc., all three of them turned into various monster type things. And here's what Sora looks like. This is little Monsters Inc. Sora. So if they had done something where, they ended up in like the pop vinyl fell over. Sorry. If they had done something in, like if they'd done a Sherwood Forest realm or a Nottingham realm or whatever, that, they could have turned Sora into a younger lion, or turned him into a fox or something. But they didn't do that. They didn't do Robin Hood in Kingdom Hearts. Would have been fun, but they didn't do it. I don't think they would have been able to pass Maid Marian off as a Princess of Hearts, but it may have at least been like a fun realm to go to and visit. Like, Prince John or something thinks that she was, like the way that they at some point Captain Hook had thought that Wendy might have been a Princess of Heart, but she wasn't. So maybe they thought, oh, maybe Maid Marian is a Princess of Heart. No, she's not. And then we end up getting into Once Upon a Time territory. Um, there were Robin Hood has kind of had two different appearances in Once Upon a Time. And way back in the second season, when he makes his first appearance, he is played by Tom Ellis. At some point, he couldn't play the role anymore. I'm not super familiar with Tom Ellis. I'm assuming it's because he had to go off and play a role on something else where he had a much more major role. He ends up dealing with Belle and Rumpelstiltskin at some point, and I think he ends up owing Rumpelstiltskin a favor for whatever reason. I don't remember. But then later on, when they all return to the Enchanted Forest after season 3, or, well, he's shown in the Enchanted Forest because him and Balefire interact, and he's recast as Sean McGuire, which is this version of him. Also makes appearance, I think, in Once Upon a Time in Wonderland at some point. This is more the Robin Hood version for Once Upon a Time that I'm familiar with, although we did start rewatching Once Upon a Time, so I'll probably be, oh yeah, that happened and that happened. The way that they explained the different character change in appearance was there was a necklace that changed your appearance, and I don't know if it was supposed to be that he was wearing it when he was the first Robin Hood, so he looked different, or he is wearing it now and it changes his appearance, or once you wear it, your appearance changes until something is negated, even if you're not wearing the necklace. I don't know. I don't remember exactly how they explained it. I might remember once I get to that in the series. But he has a son named Roland, and Balefire ends up having to. Robin helps Balefire have to get to Wonderland. Not Wonderland. Neverland. Balefire, Neil, Rumpelstiltskin's son, has to go to Neverland to try to help save Emma and Henry and Regina and all of them from Peter Pan, from his own grandfather, because reasons. And I don't remember if Neil actually knows that Peter Pan is his grandfather, or if he does, it's not revealed to him until later on. But I'm not 100% sure on that. I think at some point Neil finds out, but I don't remember. But we introduced to Robin Hood, and he has Roland, his son, that he's been raising on his own with his merry men by his side because, fortunately, Maid Marian unfortunately was executed at one point by Regina, or at the very least we think she was executed by Regina. One variation of it, she probably was. So we get a lot of that. Robin helps Balefire, helps Neil, and then later on he ends up interacting with Regina, and Robin Hood has this lion tattoo. And way back when I talked about Peter Pan, I explained that at one point Tinkerbell was trying to help Regina find love after she had lost Daniel, because she figured, oh, if Regina finds new love, she'll be happier and she won't want to cast her curse or whatever. And we get where Regina and Tinkerbell said, well, if you go into that bar, there's a guy with a lion tattoo. He is another person that you can fall in love with. And Regina is too scared, so she doesn't meet him. And then later on, Marian is, of course, unfortunately later killed by Regina, as the evil queen, for supporting Snow White. And we end up getting Regina, then at one point when she meets Robin Hood, she ends up seeing the tattoo on his arm and realizing that, oh, this was the guy who I could have fallen in love with. And of course, they do end up falling in love throughout the course of the series. And I think there's alternate things that happen, but at some point, Regina and Robin Hood do end up together, and they end up happy for a while. And then things happen, and Zelena impersonates Maid Marian and tricks Robin, and they have a child, and then Robin sacrifices himself in order to protect Regina from Hades, and then Robin dies, and unfortunately he can't be brought back, but you know, Regina and Zelina have kind of started to heal their relationship, and Regina and kind of helped Zelina raise the daughter that Zelina and Robin had, and they named the daughter Robin, and then later on, as I stated in the Alice in Wonderland video, that Robin, the daughter Robin, grows up to eventually end up being in a relationship and later marry Alice, who is the daughter of the alternate version of Hook and Mother Gothel, which is just like weird family tree. Which, yeah, someday I'm going to do a Once Upon a Time family tree, and that's going to be fun to explain. Not. Well, it'll be fun, but it'll also be very confusing. So at some point, Emma and Regina and Robin were happy for a while, but then unfortunately stuff happened, and then they weren't, which is just not fair to Regina, if you ask me. I probably stated something very similar to that back in the Snow White video. So we get a lot of that. So Robin's legacy, his daughter Robin, his daughter with Zelina, ends up being very good with the bow and arrow. Robin had magic. The daughter Robin had magic, but she ended up then giving that magic to Zelina. And so that way Zelina would be able to have magic again, because at some point she doesn't have magic for whatever reason. I don't remember why. That'll probably get refreshed in my mind once I get to it. And we end up finding out later on, that it's not like a whole lot of later on. Regina, unfortunately, still ends up losing Robin, as I said, but I would assume at some point in the afterlife they may end up getting together again. It's not like they can't. It's just we see the Underbrook, or whatever you want to call it, where it's like the hell version of Storybrooke, and Cruella and David's twin brother James are like together for whatever reason, and so it's like, it's not like you can't still fall in love, you're just dead. So you can't go back to the world of the living room. Yeah, the world of the living room. Sorry. The world of the living. Oh God, I'm sorry. That was bad. That's staying in, but that was bad. That's staying in because it was funny. But yeah, so there's a lot of that. So yeah, Robin Hood's legacy is that it lives on in his daughter Robin that he had with Zelina. That is Regina's kind of half niece type thing. That Regina still very much seems to care for Robin, the daughter, because she had been prepared to raise Robin, the daughter, before they had named her, alongside the actual Robin Hood when he was still alive. And Robin's son Roland is still alive. I don't remember if we ever get a full amount of closure on Roland, but at some point I'm assuming he grew up and everything, and he may have ended up still having a relationship with his younger sister, but we don't really know too much about that if he ever did. So I think that basically brings us to the end of our time here. Yep. House of Mouse, Kingdom Hearts, Once Upon a Time, original movie, reference footage. Yep. I think that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to talk about with Robin Hood. I still would have liked it if they put Robin Hood in Kingdom Hearts. That would have been fun. Yeah. My Robin Hood shirt. I like this one. It's very nice. So the next one would be Winnie the Pooh, which was, there's a lot of Winnie the Pooh stuff with Disney, so we'll see what happens with that. I'll at least talk about the movie. It came out in I don't remember exactly what day, but it'd be like 1970 something is when it came out. This was in 1973 is when the Robin Hood one was, so then it would be a little bit after that, so probably like 75 or 76 range or so. Side note, that kind of references back to way back to Snow White. I got the Blu-ray version of Snow White, and we were watching through some of the bonus features on it that are a little bit more than what I had on the DVD, and they talk about that there had been a lot of other different names for the dwarves, and a lot of them were not good. They were not good at all. There was like Stinky and Dirty and Nifty and Thrifty and just a whole bunch of other ones that were just, no, that I'm glad they stuck with the 7 that they ended up using. But Oh, God. Those names would have been not good. Not good. No, no, no. So, that's what we got. Next up will be Winnie the Pooh. So, I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye. Keep your chin up. Someday there'll be happiness again.